Has anybody else noticed the hypocritical way in which the term victim blaming is just thrown around? Now, before we get into today's video, I want to first start by defining what victim blaming is. According to Wikipedia, victim blaming occurs when the victim of a crime or any wrongful act is held entirely or partially at fault for the harm that befell them. Despite this being the unofficial definition of victim blaming, in my experience, victim blaming only really extends to sex and romantic relationships. And it is applied to women a whole lot more than it is applied to men. For example, a while back, I read a post online about how a woman brought a random man home from the bar in order to hook up with him. So she gave him a rubber and he refused to wear it. So the woman said that she felt intimidated by this man because the reality is that human males are much stronger than women and can technically attack them at any time. So this woman agreed to have unprotected sex with this man just to get herself out of this potentially dangerous situation. Now, in that thread, the majority of the women came to empathize with the original poster. And so I responded by saying that she should really take steps to protect her safety so that stuff like this never happens again. So after writing that comment, I was accused of victim blaming. Me telling a woman that it is her obligation to take steps to ensure her safety is victim blaming, apparently. Now, I'm sure that you've noticed, but there are a lot of women claiming to have been in abusive relationships. And while I understand that relationships like that do exist, the term abusive has just been used very liberally these days. I've personally witnessed women choosing to get into these toxic relationships and choosing to stay in these toxic relationships. And I'm sure that you have as well. We all know somebody right now, male or female, in a toxic relationship, and no amount of convincing can get them to leave it. And the internet is full of women literally admitting to liking toxic relationships. Anyway, in situations like this, I always hold the man or the woman responsible for choosing to stay in that relationship. I know that there are bad people in this world, but you are still responsible for vetting and choosing correctly. And you are responsible for ending a relationship the moment a person shows you their true colors. And while sociopathic liars do exist, the vast majority of people tell on themselves very early in a relationship. But you choose to ignore the red flags. And then later on, people will try to claim that the person suddenly changed or tricked them into the relationship. If you choose to ignore red flags and stay in a toxic relationship, then you cannot claim to be the victim. But every time I have ever pointed out that there were red flags present in a person's behavior early on in the relationship, I am again accused of victim blaming. So recently, another person accused me of victim blaming for holding somebody responsible for getting into a relationship with a person that they self-reported had tons of red flags. They essentially admitted to knowing that this person was toxic from the very beginning. And I was again accused of victim blaming. So I asked that person, why is it only called victim blaming when it is related to sex or romantic relationships? If I take out my credit card right now and I show you the front and I show the back of it on the internet and my information is stolen, I would be a victim, right? However, most people would react by partially holding me accountable for uploading my private financial information to the internet. Because I know that the world is full of thieves, right? And nobody calls that partial accountability victim blaming. If I park my expensive car in a neighborhood that I know is dangerous and it gets stolen or vandalized, nobody would really feel sorry for me. People would criticize me for putting my car there and remind me that I knew the neighborhood was dangerous. Now, it's my car. It's a public street. We live in a civilized society. I should technically be able to park my car wherever I want. But if I park my car there, knowing full and well that that neighborhood is dangerous, we can all agree that I am partially at fault for not exercising more caution, right? And nobody calls that victim blaming. If I choose to leave my house doors unlocked and somebody walks in and steals my electronics, I would be criticized for not locking my doors, even though nobody has the right to unlawfully enter somebody else's private residency. I would still be told that I am responsible for not locking my doors and securing my property. And nobody calls that victim blaming. If I get scammed by a Nigerian prince, people might feel sorry for me. But they will remind me that it's an obvious scam and that I was stupid for believing in it. And nobody calls that victim blaming. But when you hold people accountable for engaging in dangerous, risky behaviors surrounding sex, toxic, or abusive relationships, those instances are considered protected from any form of criticism and ultimately any accountability. And like I said, I recognize that there are instances in which people end up in dangerous situations 100% of zero fault of their own. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but we must also acknowledge all of the instances in which people choose to not exercise proper precaution in situations that we all know have a propensity to be dangerous, toxic, or abusive. And I don't understand why it's okay to advise people to make better and safer decisions regarding their property, their money, and even their friendships. But when it comes to sex and relationships, everybody is a victim and everybody is a martyr.